The Seventh Tower by Garth Nix. Book 3, Einar. Chapter 8. Milla woke exactly as she had ordered herself, on the exhalation of her 1400th breath. Night was ending, and the sun was starting to rise. Milla stared at it in fascination. It really was like a gigantic sunstone climbing above the hills. "Thank the sky you're awake," said Odris. "I've been so sleepy." Milla looked across at the storm shepherd. It was not so bad now, but every time she looked, she imagined what the creature would be like as a shadow. "You may rest," she said curtly. "I will watch." "Oh, I'm not tired now," said Odris. "It's just that with the bond between us—" "There is no bond," said Milla angrily. "Or if there is, it is a false one." Odris didn't answer. She simply flew off a short distance to give Milla more space. Milla did some stretches, ignoring the pain from her bruises. In the light of day, she saw that her legs were mottled with dark patches and scratches. There would be swelling, too, in her joints. It would not be easy for her to walk. But she didn't need to, now that she had decided to use the storm shepherd to help her. "Odris!" she called. The storm shepherd drifted closer. "Pick me up," Milla ordered, holding up her arms. "We will fly to the closest water. I need to drink and wash." Odris reached down and gripped Milla's forearms with her puffy fingers. Then she rose up in a series of jerks, trailing Milla only a few stretches above the ground. They headed east, but Odris could not lift Milla very high. Every now and then she actually dropped down far enough that Milla's feet touched, which hurt, since they were flying quite fast. Milla noticed that Odris seemed able to change the wind so it always blew behind her, driving in the direction the storm shepherd chose. The grassland continued for a long time. Odris started to dip more often, and Milla's feet got quite sore, until finally they saw a small lake ahead. Bright blue, it glittered in the morning sun, in a regular patch of water about as big as a full-grown selski, and much the same shape. "Set me down," Milla demanded. Once again, Odris complied without speaking. She dropped Milla gently enough, right by the water's edge, then shot sharply up to rest 50 stretches or more above the ice carl. Milla looked at the water carefully. On her world, open water was rare and very dangerous. Apart from a few permanent areas near hot springs, it only occurred where the living sea of the selski met the Slepenish that came up through the ice. The result of that encounter was always a vast swath of broken ice and choppy seas. This water was very clear. Milla could see right down to its sandy bottom. She could see no sign of any fish, but there were small clumps of weeds. Even so, Milla was cautious. She drew her Merwin horn sword. Keeping it in her right hand, she knelt down to dip her left hand in the lake and take a drink of water. As her fingers touched the surface, the water suddenly frothed, and a current began to swirl violently around the edges. Milla snatched her hand back and retreated, sword at the ready. The water continued to swirl. Then a huge shape suddenly rose out of the middle of the lake. For a moment, Milla thought it was something like a Merwin emerging. Then she saw that it was actually more water, but water that had risen in a definite shape. A second later, Milla realized that it was a nose, and there were 2 deep black holes that were eyes, and ridges of eyebrows made of darker, greener water. The water from the lake had formed a giant face. The mouth was only a few stretches away from where Milla had knelt. It opened. Water pushed up to form lips, and drained away at the same time to create a throat. The lips moved, and a gurgling roar came out, accompanied by a fine spray that splashed over Milla. She winced and drew back. It took her a while to recognize that the gurgle was actually speech, and that she could understand it. "Who is it comes to take my blood?" Milla didn't answer. She started to back away. This was all too reminiscent of Riga Hill and the Storm Shepherd's challenge. As she backed away, her left hand suddenly thrust itself forward without her control. Milla grimaced as the jolt ran through into her shoulder. It felt like her hand was held by an invisible rope, but all she could see were a few drops of water where she dipped it in the lake.
Who comes to drink my blood?
Said the face in the water.
Do you seek to leave so soon?
Milla tugged on her hand, but it would not budge. There was magic at work here, magic that worked through the water her hand had touched. For a moment, Milla considered cutting off her hand, but that would reduce her chances of surviving long enough to return to the rune ship and deliver the sunstone. It might have to be done, but she should try everything else first. Milla looked up, but Odris had come no closer. Either the Storm Shepherd was biding her time before coming to help, or she was sulking over Milla's behavior toward her. I am Milla. She didn't bother announcing her parentage. It would mean nothing to the strange water spirit. What do you want of me?
Ah, she speaks,
said the face, and the whole lake tilted up so it could look at her.
I want nothing save a little conversation to pass the idle days. It is lonely here, and I am forbidden to slosh my way to more interesting parts.
I do not like talk, said Milla. Let me go. The face smiled, its watery lips curving back.
No,
it said.
It is not as simple as that. I am bound here and must play my part. You have come here and must play yours.
What part? Asked Milla. I am no singer to imitate the voices of others.
You wear a sunstone,
said the face.
And I see you have a storm shepherd. It is destined to be your new spirit shadow, I would guess, and you are a chosen who has recently found it. Congratulations.
I am not a chosen, Milla said, but her words were smothered by a crash of thunder from overhead as lightning flashed down into the water.
You are aided by an angry storm shepherd,
said the face, smiling again.
But lightning can do nothing to a lake, though it could do much to a chosen.
A trickle of water shot out from where the face's chin would be and circled around Milla's foot. Milla tried to lift her foot, but the water was like glue. She could only get her heel a few finger widths off the ground before the water sucked it back down. The ice girl considered cutting at the water, but that was almost certain not to work and would only make her look foolish. Once again, she regretted not knowing how to use her sunstone. A proper blast from that could boil the lake like Selski blubber in a melting pot. She didn't think the face would enjoy being turned into steam. But she didn't know how to blast it. And she couldn't fight it. It was a very strange feeling. There was nothing on the dark world she couldn't at least try to fight. What do you want? She asked again.